I think we need to move on here because we have another project to discuss, which is Elsewhere. Now, Elsewhere is a project that was actually created by the Book Festival with Arts Council Expo funding. And we've invited 50 leading authors from around the world to write short pieces, 3,000 words. Could be a poem, it could be a short story, it could be a memoir, it could be anything you like, but on the subject of elsewhere. And as the blurb rather grandly says, it's to encourage writers to think about identity and social cohesion through the lens of unfamiliarity and the unknown. And these 50 pieces are going to be published online, and they're also going to be published in book form at the beginning of next year. So this is a big project. It's a very exciting project, and it's very nice that Roddy is one of the contributors. So, Roddy, over to you.
The story is only 1,200 words, so it won't detain you long, so to speak. And I happily accepted the idea to the invitation to write the thing, I think last April, because I was aware this book came out in April and May, and I was going to the United States. And I suppose when I'm at home, I'm not aware of the fact that I'm Irish. It doesn't arise. It's only when really, when I go on something like this, but particularly to the United States, that you become Irish. And because all the questions are about being Irish. There's the inevitable questions, clerical abuse, all these questions. You have to have policy on all these things because you're Irish. So I kind of accepted the idea without knowing what I was going to write about at all, but hoping that something would happen over there that would spark it. Something happened at home as well. Do you have head shops over here? I asked the question. These legal drugs. Well, Dublin was full of them at one stage, and one opened up around the corner from where I live and was on talk radio for days and days and days until it was shut down in day 3 because apparently the lease specified that it should have been a florist's. And it wasn't. But it was a big talking point around the area and in the house because my children are of a certain age. So anyway, this story is called, the language is quite crude, so brace yourselves. It's called Los San Patricios. The writer had a new book out and he was touring America, a city a day, a reading a night. He'd fly to a different city and hear the same questions. Do you use a laptop? What other Irish writers do you like? Why do you think the Irish punch above their weight literature-wise? But then there was a new question that quickly became one of the same questions. Have you heard about the San Patricios? He had in fact heard about the San Patricios. The chieftains and Ry Cooder had a new record called San Patricio. There'd been an article in the Irish Times about it and he'd read the first paragraph. The San Patricios were a group of Irishmen who changed sides during the Mexican-American War of 1846 and 47. That was as much as he knew, but it was enough, he thought, to let him answer yes. One delighted man stood up and said, "Can you believe those guys?" A woman in a different city spoke about the Irish men who decided to fight with their Mexican brethren. Had the writer, she asked, ever considered writing about those men? Fuck's sake, man. Rex had no idea where he was. He wasn't even sure he'd woken up. It was hot and he was outside. But they'd been inside, under the ceiling, when his eyes had started closing. He wasn't sure, but nothing was clear or coming back. Clueless. He put his hand over his eyes to block the sun. Clueless, real name Trevor, was lying beside him, just starting to move. He was covered in red dust. Everything was red. The ground shook. The noise was unbelievable, some kind of explosion. Clueless, what's up? Where are we? Haven't a fucking clue, man. Clueless sat up and looked around him. New dust blew into their faces. We're hallucinating, said Rex. That's it, said Clueless. Several men ran past. Their boots threw more dust and grit back at them. The men were carrying rifles. They're all dressed the same, like, look, cunts. One of the men fell like he'd just been thumped. He hit the ground as they heard the gunshot and saw the quick spurt of blood slap the earth. Did you see that? Yeah. We're having the same hallucination. Brilliant. That stuff is ace, man. Rex remembered now. He'd been smoking the stuff, smoke XXXX, with Clueless and Clueless's brother in their bedroom. The brother Elliot had got the smoke, warning, not for human consumption, in the local head shop 3 days before the law had shut it down. Where's Elliot? Over there, said Clueless. Look it. Elliot was lying dead a few yards away. His body was partly hidden behind a red boulder. They couldn't see his head, but the Converses were definitely his. Fucking amazing, said Rex. How come he's not seeing the same things as us, said Clueless. He smoked the 4Xs too. Yeah, said Rex, but he didn't drink any of the hand gel. He spat it out the window, remember? That's right, said Clueless. A bullet nipped his ear and whacked a stone just in front of him. Fuck. Rex was laughing. Brilliant, he said. Well worth the money. Fuck off, said Clueless. It's fucking sore. Blood, look, it's pouring out of me. Coolio. The ground shook again. The explosion roared and shook their clothes like heavy hands going all over them. A man in uniform ran past. He stopped and turned. He had one of those mad black moustaches and shouted at them. Then he ran off. What fucking language was that? Paki or something. We must be in Iraq. Yeah, said Clueless. Come here, bud. Hallucinations aren't supposed to be sore, are they? My ear's fucking killing me. Mine's grand, said Rex. He checked his ear. Yeah, no blood. He shouted after the running man. Here, bud. But he'd gone, dopey cunt. Another man came running at them. He was carrying a pile of rifles, trying to hold them all in his arms. He fell, he dived right beside the lads. Sound men, he said in a bogger accent. You've arrived. S'pose, said Rex. You're Dublin boyos. That's right. Well, you're great men and welcome, said the bogger. He handed them a rifle each. There now. Coolio, said Rex. Where are we, bud? Said Clueless. Where are you? The bogger stared at them until fresh dust made him shut his eyes. Lads, he said, you're slap dab in the middle of the Battle of Buena Vista. Serious? Fighting for Mexico and the Catholic faith. Fucking Mexico. The Catholic faith, said Rex. Mind your arse, Clueless. And boys, said the bogger, you're facing the wrong way. Rex turned and saw a line of soldiers walking towards him. The dust rose and drifted, and some of the men fell, shot, but most of them kept moving steadily, getting nearer. I wouldn't mind waking up now, said Clueless. Yeah, said Rex, it's boring. Make sure those bayonets are fixed, boys, said the bogger. The signal to charge will come any minute. I'm firing mine, said Rex. He aimed at one of the advancing soldiers. Are they Americans, are they? Oh, they are surely, said the bogger. Rex pulled the trigger and his shoulder fell off, the whole side of his head. For fuck's sake, you hit one. Can't hear you. You hit one. Ace. Rex aimed again and pulled the trigger, but nothing happened. It's empty, he said. Should there not be 6 bullets in it or something? Hang on, said Clueless. It's one of them really old ones. You have to reload it every time you shoot. I seen one of them in a film in me dad's Henry Fonda box set. Who's Henry Fonda? Jane Fonda's husband. Who's Jane Fonda? Don't know, said Clueless. Some Elwyn. You can only fire 1 bullet at a time. That's shite, that is, said Rex. Is there not an app or something? Here, pal, he shouted at the bogger. What year is it? It's 1847, lads. It is in its hole. But the bogger wasn't listening. At the ready, boys, he shouted, crouched. They saw more men now, lining up beside them, their rifles, their bayonets held out in front of them. Did you do history in school, Clueless? Sometimes, yeah. Who won the Battle of Buena, whatever the fuck? Haven't a clue. Rex looked at his new comrades, the line of thin, tired, ragged men. I don't think it was us, said Rex. No, Clueless agreed. We'll change sides if we don't wake up first, right? Okay, but we'll stab a few Yanks first, all right? Okay. Bit of buzz, yeah. The bogger beside them lifted a rifle into the air. Men, he yelled, for Mexico and Pope Pius. Fuck's sake, and Jennifer Lopez. Here we go. Erin Gabra. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Not so much magical realism as magic mushroom realism, I think.